A good while back now, someone suggested that I create a video about the best thrift stores in Brisbane. And at the time I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then I proceeded to procrastinate it throughout COVID. Well, today I'm finally getting to it. But instead of just creating one video with all the best thrift stores in Brisbane, I thought I would try and cover every single one of them. Pretty gutsy, huh? And disclaimer, while I will try my best to do all, I may not do all. I want to talk about the pros and cons of each store and what they're best for, as well as the prices for each item, because best overall is kind of a vague concept. Since there are quite a lot of thrift stores, I figured I would make this into a series and in each episode cover one bite-sized chunk of Brisbane. Today's chunk, Lawnton.
What?
I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got $20 in my pocket. I'm hunting, looking for a come up. This is awesome.
The first notable place to go op shopping on the north of Brisbane is the Lawnton Cluster. That's what I'm calling it. There are 6 different stores, all on the same street, all within walking distance, and they are quite big stores at that. An excellent place to do a day's worth of thrift shopping without having to drive around.
The first one is the Lawnton Vinnies, located at Unit 11 to 12, 690 Gympie Road. Open 8:30am to 4:30pm Monday to Friday, and 9am to 4pm on the weekends. Vinnies is short for St. Vincent de Paul Society and is a Catholic organisation committed to serving people in need in our community by aspiring to live the gospel message by serving Christ in the poor with love, respect, justice, hope and joy, and to bring about a more just and compassionate society. The Society aspires to be recognised as a caring Catholic charity offering a hand up to people in need. They advocate on important social justice issues including low income support and poverty, housing and homelessness, First Nations people, people seeking asylum, domestic violence, energy efficiency and response to parliamentary inquiries. The Lawnton Vinnies is a huge store that is great for furniture, photo frames and books, but also sells pretty much everything else you could want. Although it doesn't seem to have a very big selection of children's toys or handbags. At the front, they also have a selection of handmade bags made from repurposed materials called Re-Up. The clothes are mostly more modern than vintage and are your typical fast fashion brands, mostly like Tempt, Shein, H&M, and also your Katie's and Rockmans for the older crowd. The store is a bit of a mishmash in terms of organisation, but has recently undergone a bit of a tidy up. The layout changes up every now and then depending on their specials and what donations they get, but it generally feels pretty packed in. There are shoes all over the store and handbags in at least 3 different places. I think one of those is for brand names. They have 3 rather dinky change rooms with curtains and small stools, but I guess that's all you need. The clothes are sorted by type, like short sleeve tops versus long sleeve tops versus sleeveless tops, then by size, which isn't always very clearly marked, then by colour as well. The price labels are often on the side of the piece, meaning you can see them easily at a glance without having to go searching for them. The price labels for the books are not very well marked though. I found them hard to find. When I visited, they had $1 kids books on a table and baskets of pre-packaged bags of books for $2, which is a good deal. As for the clothes, tops were mostly $6, pants $8, skirts $5 to $8, dresses $7 to $18, shoes $7 to $35, with some boots $45, and handbags were $14 to $40. Pretty much all Vinnies stores do the coloured ticket sales in which clothing, Manchester, shoes and accessories marked with the colour of the week are 50% off. Right near that is the Salvos Store Lawnton at Unit 4, 690 Gympie Road. Open 9am to 5pm every day except Sunday. The Salvos is short for the Salvation Army and is an international Christian movement united by faith and giving hope where it's needed most, with aged care services, drugs and alcohol services, disaster recovery and emergency services, employment, family and domestic abuse services, fighting modern slavery, homelessness, chaplaincy, parenting programs and youth services. All profits made through their stores go to funding these programs and services around the country. For those who are doing it tough, pre-loved furniture, clothing and goods donated to their stores are distributed free of charge to those in need through the Salvation Army's community programs. I find the Salvos Store Lawnton is best for women's clothing, shoes and home accessories if you're looking for items in specific colours. But they are a big store, so sell pretty much everything, including perfumes and toiletries, new in packaging, gifts, lots of clothes and shoes, jewellery, scarves, belts, furniture, books and toys. When I have visited, I have not been impressed with the bag selection. They looked very old school, but not even in a cool vintage sort of way. Just old mum bags, in my opinion, but that's not to say you won't find a treasure in there if you're lucky. The clothes lean more modern than vintage, I would say. As for brands, I found a lot of Supre, Cotton On, Miller's, Kmart and Big W brands. There isn't a separate place for big name brands, you just have to rummage through everything if brand names are important to you. The store is organised by type, then size, then colour. Women's clothes are at the front, then men's in the middle and children's at the back. The organisation for each type is very specific, e.g. long sleeve versus short sleeve and blouses versus tops. There are also feature colour shelves that have shoes and accessories throughout the store, so make sure to look everywhere. The home accessories are on the right wall, beautifully displayed in colours. Even the Tupperware is beautifully colour coordinated. They have 3 small change rooms for trying before you buy. To give you an idea of prices, shoes $5 to $15, dresses about $10, ladies winter $4 to $9, singlets about $4, bags $4 to $20, kids books mostly well marked on the front cover, on average $2. As for specials, the Salvos chain have a lot of good offers at all their stores. All fashion, Manchester and selected accessories have coloured tags applied to them. Each week they offer a different colour tag for 50% off. On Mondays, customers can enjoy their exclusive $2 deals. These items change every week and are snapped up fast, so be sure to get in. $2 racks are generally located towards the front of the store. They also have a pension and seniors discount day on Thursdays and a student discount day on Saturday. All get you 20% off. Besides Salvos is the Neighbours Aid Op Shop Lawnton at Unit 9, 690 Gympie Road. Open 8:30am to 4pm most days, but closed on Sundays. The Neighbours Aid journey began in 2002 as a practical response to the question Jesus was asked in the story of the Good Samaritan: who is my neighbour? The answer, of course, is that anyone in need, regardless of race, colour or religion, is my neighbour, and we all have a responsibility to do what we can to help. Neighbours Aid mission is to make a difference to the lives of some of the world's needy children through the provision of education, healthcare and other initiatives aimed at improving the quality of life. While the Salvos and Vinnies seem to be more focused on helping Australians, Neighbours Aid seems to have a more global outreach. They sell clothes, lingerie, activewear, shoes, handbags, jewellery, belts, scarves, books, furniture, electronics, DVDs and CDs, toys, house accessories and Manchester. This shop, I'd say, is best for children's books and their change rooms, which are nice and large with comfy chairs in them. Unfortunately, I haven't found them to be that great for clothes or organisation. The clothing is only organised by type and then size but not colour, and there isn't much space in the walkways. Plus size has been separated into a different rack, but again there is no separate section for big brand names. There didn't look to be too many though, mostly older women's styles like Miller's, Susan Grey and Crossroads. The vintage to modern ratio of the store would be about 30 to 70 perhaps. Prices range from $5 to $25 for dresses, jeans $4 to $6, skirts $4 to $8, shoes $4 to $25, but they aren't well marked, and handbags from $3 for a clutch and mostly about $7 for a handbag. Children's books were from 50 cents to $3, clearly labelled mostly on the spine, others on the front cover. During my last visit, they were running a red line shoe sale, which was half price on all footwear with a red line, as well as all green ticket clothes were 50% off. I think they work in a similar way to the Salvos coloured tags. The most recent addition to the Lawnton Cluster at Unit 6, 619 Gympie Road is the RSPCA OP Shop Lawnton. Open as of the 2nd of May from 9am to 5pm Monday to Saturday and 9 to 4pm on Sundays. RSPCA stands for the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. I'm sure many of you will have heard of them before, but perhaps weren't aware that they had op shops as well, which helped them to raise 20% of their annual income. 100% of the profits from the op shops go to the 56,015 animals RSPCA Queensland cares for each year. I visited the day after they opened, and everything was very beautifully set out with lots of room and lovely wide aisles big enough for the pram to fit through. I imagine it may get more cramped as they get older and find they don't have enough space anymore, but for now it's very spacious. Despite being beautifully organised, the labels which were added to separate the sizes after opening week kind of brought down the look. It was super pretty all colour coordinated, but more practical to have the clothing sorted by size. All the long dresses are on the side rack and the designer brand name clothes are at the front of the store. There was a fairly even split of older women's brands like Miller's and younger fast fashion brands like Tempt and Valley Girl, but also a decent amount of more unique brands and items. Definitely mostly modern clothing, but there was a beautiful retro lowboy. This store is great for clothes, but they didn't have much of anything else. Not as much variety of items as your normal thrift store, but maybe that will change as they get more donations coming in. The store isn't as big as most of the others in the Lawnton Cluster, so it wouldn't be able to fit too much else anyway. Apart from clothes, they had some furniture, handbags, shoes, books, DVDs, CDs, toys, ties, belts, and the whole right wall is home goods styled on shelves. Even the changing rooms at the back were aesthetically pleasing and matched the vibe of the store. The store had quite a high class and polished feel, almost like a boutique, which isn't the norm for thrift stores, in my experience at least. The prices weren't too high class, thankfully, and were quite standardized for each type of clothing. Dresses were $7 to $20, but mostly $8. Tops $3 to $20, but mostly $5. Pants $7 to $8. Skirts mostly $5. Shorts $4 to $5. Sweaters $6 to $10. Outerwear $10 to $18. Shoes $5 to $15. Handbags $6 to $8, but clutches were $3. And kids' books were $1 or $2, but the price labels were hard to find, and there were too many books on each shelf for the bookends to handle and kept falling off the sides when I tried to investigate. I don't believe there were any specials going when I visited, probably because they've just opened up, but I noticed on their Facebook that other branches of RSPCA Op Shops have 50% off items and a $2 rack, so I'm sure they'll pop up after they've been open a while. At the back, they also had a pet section with new bags of kitty litter and cat foods, which I imagine is there if you decide to adopt a cat. The op shop is combined with their adoption centre. They have cages at the back with cats up for adoption, with a little blurb about what they are like, their name and age. This is a unique feature for an op shop and makes it especially fun to visit, but perhaps even riskier to come home with unplanned purchases. Anyone else have trouble saying goodbye to kitties once you make friends? Up the road just a little, you have the Lifeline Shop Lawnton at 666 Gympie Road. Open 8:30am to 5pm weekdays and 9 to 4 on Saturday until 2pm Sundays. With the profits from their op shops, Lifeline provides peer skills and corporate training, confidential suicide prevention and crisis support services as part of Uniting Care. It is a massive store that I find is best for its organisation and cleanliness. It's not bad for women's clothes too. Apart from clothes, they also sell shoes, handbags, jewellery, belts, scarves, books, furniture, electronics, DVDs and CDs, toys, house accessories, Tupperware, Manchester and wedding dresses. They stock mostly modern clothing with brands like H&M, Valley Girl, Dottie, etc. They have a special rack for branded labels and the brand name handbags are in a glass case next to the counter. The store is well organised by type, then size, then colour, and has 3 small change rooms with small corner benches. Its prices range from $5 to $30 for dresses, $5 to $35 for jackets, $5 to $45 for shoes, and handbags are between $5 to $20. Most things tended to be $7 to $10. The first time I filmed for this video, there wasn't the best selection of kids' books and prices weren't well marked. But since going back, they had a lot more books and most seemed to be $1. Along with the majority of thrift stores, they use the coloured ticket system for sales. Each week you can take a further 50% off items with a particular coloured ticket. They also have things like 50% off winter stock, managers specials, records for $2, and a fill a bag for $6 book sale. Finally, across the road at 675 Gympie Road, you have One World Charity Shop Lawnton. Open 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday to Friday, 9 to 4 on Saturday, but closed on Sundays. Their proceeds are donated to local charities that are making a real impact in our communities. They also support Volunteers Vietnam and the Nan Ai Orphanage in Cam Ranh, Vietnam. Apologies if I mispronounced any of that. It only opened fairly recently as well, and I was super impressed when I went to check it out. It is excellent for clothing, shoes and toys, but doesn't have much furniture. The furniture it did have though was in excellent condition. In terms of organisation, it was very good. Kids' clothes at the front, followed by men's, handbags and shoes in the middle with well-labelled tubs of accessories. The shoes didn't seem to be organised by size though. That would have been helpful with the amount that they had. Women's clothing was organised by type, small, medium, large, etc. But then the sizes were mixed up within those racks. The racks were also then arranged by colour and length of skirt or dress. In the middle of the store, there are 3 change rooms with full-length locking doors and good-sized mirrors. This store had more unique clothing brands than I usually manage to find, including some more brand name pieces, but still stocked a fair amount of Shein, Tempt, Just Jeans, Jeans West, and Tokido. The clothing leans very modern rather than vintage. Prices were pretty standard for all the various clothing categories. Tops $4 to $10, pants $6 to $10, skirts mostly $4 to $7, but I did find one that was $20, dresses $7 to $40, outerwear $10 to $25, shoes $2 to $40, but most were $7, and handbags were $5 to $35, but most between $7 and $12. Books were $1 to $4, but most kids' books were $1 or $2. There was a clearance rack right at the back as well that was all 50% off. Follow One World Lawnton on Facebook to keep up to date with their latest promotions. By the looks of their past posts, they have about 2 specials a month. Some past promotions include 50% off all clearance, buy one and get one free on stuffed toys, DVDs and CDs, buy 2 get 1 free on all ladies clothing, and 40% off Christmas sale. They also have a loyalty card where 10 stamps gets you a $25 gift voucher to spend in store. Also, for 10 kilos or more of donations brought in store, you can get a $10 voucher to spend in any of their stores. You just bring it in to the counter. Make sure to ask for the voucher, otherwise they don't give it to you. They didn't weigh it or anything, so as long as it looks like a decent donation, you'll get the voucher. And an entry into the weekly draw to win a $50 voucher.
So that's the Lawnton Cluster, a great place to start your thrifting journey if you're new to it, or if you just don't like driving around while thrifting. So please tell me, was this helpful? Did I give you all the info that you would want to know? Did I miss anything? Please let me know in the comments so that I can make this series the best it can possibly be. And stay tuned for the next episode for more great op shops.